Howdy and welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast. I'm Jerry Snyder. As an elite level athlete, owner of All In Health and Wellness, and author of the book Confidence Through Health, my goal is to help you achieve your goals and dreams using health as the conduit to get there. So I want to take a second to thank our sponsor for this episode, American Sports and Fitness Association. They are the place to go for your personal trainer and fitness certifications. They have a wide range of certifications, everything from personal trainer to golf fitness instructor to water aerobics to nutrition and sports nutrition. If you've been thinking about going into sports and fitness instructor arena, I highly suggest you check out the American Sports and Fitness Association. There's a link on my website, confidencethroughhealth.com. Go there to look at other episodes of the website, but also check out their information. It'll link to their website, and you can check out more information about how to get certified as a sports and fitness instructor. Howdy, welcome back to the Confidence Through Health podcast. My name is Jerry Snyder, and I wanted to touch on the word, the phrase, the term calorie today, and explain why the use of it in today's world is causing confusion when it comes to our food, our body, our health. And the way that we actually use the word is completely not the way that it's defined. And I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and say conspiracy theory that it's part of some bigger, grand scheme to confuse the average American, the average person in the world. But what I will say is that the average person in the world is confused when it comes to how to eat healthy. What does calorie mean, and how do you work with it in regards to planning your meals? When you get overweight or out of shape or unhealthy from a physical standpoint, how in the world are you supposed to manage all the different diet options that are out there? It's confusing as any get out. And so what I want to do is I want to start with the basics of understanding the terminology, because if you don't understand the terminology, you're always going to be confused. I've got kids, one's in fourth grade, one's in sixth grade. And helping them with homework, oftentimes, it's not so much an issue with them being able to logically understand, especially if it's a math problem or a reading, like a word problem. It's not so much them understanding the concept of what they're supposed to do. They're not understanding the words that I'm saying, because the translation of how they do math nowadays is different. And so when I say it's as simple as this plus this minus that times this, it's simple, it's boom. And they're like, but you can't do it that way. And I'm like, okay, well and so it's obviously confusing. And if you have kids, or you've heard the phrase or looked at or seen anything about this new math and all that kind of stuff, you understand that it's confusing. It's confusing because they're mixing two different formulas and terminologies. And so you've got one side where somebody's saying it this way and another side where somebody's saying it's a different way. And it's confusing when you try and mix the two. So everybody needs to get on one page. Okay. So whether it's the new math or the old math, everybody needs to get on one page, and then it becomes easy to talk about it. So when it comes to your health, in the word calorie, a lot of people are confused, and they don't eat this because it has high calories, or they don't eat that because it has low calories and they need calories, or they don't eat this because it's bad calories. I mean, okay. A calorie is not something you can eat. And one of the ways that we went way off base with this is we started to use it. I say we, meaning the FDA, the regulating bodies of who's telling the food companies when they put food out there, like, you have to tell people what's in it, right? Especially processed food. You got to tell people what's in it. You need to tell people what it's going to do to their body. And the easy thing is to do, let's just use calorie, because it's the easy way to understand it on a scientific standpoint. But the average person maybe doesn't understand that on a scientific standpoint. And so they just see a calorie and they think, I'm ingesting calories. You're not ingesting calories. No matter how much you eat, you're never going to ingest a calorie, because a calorie is a measure of energy that is created through some sort of process. If you go to your fireplace, or you go outside to your barbecue pit, or you go camping and you're starting a fire. So you've got wood, you're gathering all together, you start a fire. The wood starts burning. The heat that's generated is actually measured in calories. A calorie is a measurement of energy that is created. Something is burning, and it creates a calorie. It creates energy that is measured by calories. So when you know that, it makes you go, well, if I eat something that says it has a high calorie count, I'm not eating a high calorie count. What I'm eating is fuel that's going to be making a massive fire. If you eat something with a low calorie count, you're eating fuel that's going to start a small fire. So when you look at that and you say, okay, I need this size fire to maintain my body the entire day. And that can be different. It's called your basal metabolic rate. It's measured in the amount of energy that is put off in calories. And so you've got a measurement. It's different based on the size of their body, male and female, age, the amount of activity you already do, the amount of sleep you get. All of these things can change your basal metabolic rate, your BMR. But everybody has that. I'm just going to pick a number, 1,200 calories. You have to ingest enough food as fuel to give off and burn enough energy that can be measured to about 1,200 calories just to live. Okay? Or if you caught the previous episode on body fat percentage and fasting, if you've stored enough energy in your body and you don't consume anything, but you've stored enough energy to burn and create 1,200 calories in a day, you'll survive. So now we've got that piece, okay? So then we look at it and we say, okay, well, now I need to accomplish this task or this amount of exercise that I like to do every day, or whatever the case may be. I've got to do presentations at work and I've got to be moving around a lot, or I'm going on vacation and so I'm going to be walking a lot for hiking, or whatever the case may be. You then have to look at that and say, and flip this around. Instead of saying, if I eat this much, then I have to do this much exercise to burn those calories. You're not burning those calories. You cannot burn a calorie. So if you look at it and you say, if I'm going to use enough energy to have the output of 1,200 calories, then if I eat this much food, that will give me the energy to do that thing. So if I eat 1,200 calories of food, meaning you're not eating 1,200 calories, you're eating food that is going to give you enough fuel to create enough energy. Your fire is going to be big enough to be measured at 1,200 calories. You're going to be able to do that activity without having any problems. So if you are going to try and lose weight, your basal metabolic rate is 1,200 calories. You're going to do an exercise or an event that's going to be an additional 1,200 calories, which, by the way, is a lot of exercise. So you're going to do an additional 1,200, but you're only going to ingest food that's going to create an additional 800 calories. Then that 400 calories of energy has to come from somewhere. And so that's going to be fat that gets burned to create that 400 calories of energy for you to be able to expend and finish your basal metabolic rate and live, and then also complete the exercise that you want to do. Because it has to equal, and it's going to come from somewhere until you die. And so if you don't ingest the right fuel and enough fuel, then those calories are not going to burn. That fuel is not going to burn. You're not going to have that calorie expenditure. You're not going to have they're going to have the energy expenditure to be able to measure and equal the calories that you need. Okay. And I know I'm even getting twisted and caught up in it because it's so common. But what you need to remember, it's really simple, is that food is fuel. The types of food burn differently. And that's part of the key where people say bad calories, good calories. It's bad food, good food. It's just like if you are, and you can ask, any Boy Scout, anybody that's been, well, I don't know. I don't know if they teach this in the military anymore or not, but they being out off in the wilderness, you got to build a fire. Watch Bear Grylls, watch one of his shows, right? You got to build a fire and you're out in the woods, the wilderness somewhere, and he'll show you like, oh, well, you can't use this because it's wet. It's, we just had a rain. And so this stuff is wet because it's been rained on the externally, or this stuff is wet because it's too fresh. We just cut it down. And so it's too wet internally to start a fire. You have to have the right fuel in your body. And so that's where good food is going to give you good fuel, and it's going to give you sustained fuel depending on the type of food it is and what's involved in it. Simple carbohydrates, simple sugars are going to be your bad foods from the standpoint of sustained energy. If you need a quick boost, they're going to be good because they're going to come in and they're going to burn out real fast. And so it might give you a lot of calories, but they're going to be calories that shoot up, or it's going to give you a readout of a lot of energy, and it's going to shoot up to a high calorie count really fast, and then it's going to drop. Whereas something else that's more of a complex carbohydrate is going to either A, get stored if you don't use it, or B, give you an energy output that's going to be longer sustained before it hits that high peak. The high peak could be exactly the same. The simple sugar and the complex carbohydrate, they could give you the exact same readout of calories when they've burned out to extinction, say they both give you 300 calories of energy output when they've burned out. But one of them's going to do it in 30 minutes and the other one's going to do it over 4 hours. Which one do you want? Which one do you need? And so looking at your energy output of what's going to happen in the next hour, the next 4 hours, the next 3 days. You've probably heard the term, if you've got anybody in your world or in your that does anything with athletics or running specifically, swimming, you've probably heard the term carbo loading. Carbo loading is simply loading your muscle cells with complex carbohydrates, fuel. So we're talking about, it all gets burned down to glucose, but we're talking about glucose that's coming from longer sustained burn. And so this is the wood that's going to burn for a long time. And so you're going to load your muscles up with those over a 2 to 3 day period before you go out and you run a marathon, or you swim across the English Channel, or you bike through the Tour de France. Before you do one of those long endurance things, Ironman triathlon, where you're going 70 miles or 140 miles in a single day, you're going to load up your muscles as best you can before you start so that you've got as much energy to use. And the interesting thing is, like the Ironman, I volunteered at a couple of Ironman races. And when you go to an Ironman, you volunteer at one of the replenishing spots, the water spots, it's more than just water that they're dishing out for those athletes as they come through. They've actually got soda, they've got pretzels, they've got potato chips, they've got the little Gatorade squares and energy squares. They've got Gatorade, obviously, or the sports drinks. They've got soda. And so you might be thinking to yourself, wait, why do these highly fine-tuned athletes, because even the professionals are getting some of these things. Like, why are they getting these things? It's because they've carbo loaded. They've got the sustained energy that's burning. And they know they can only last for so long with that energy. And so in a short term, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to burn this for an hour. And then I'm going to get to a spot where I'm going to say, I'm going to grab some really short-term, simple carbohydrates and throw those in and burn those really fast so that I don't have to burn my complex carbohydrates for the next 20 minutes. So I can give those a break and then come back. And so that's sort of like, stoking a fire, or you put new wood on a fire. Or if you've got a fire that's raging and then it starts to burn down, it's coals and it's just red, and it's just like just the little, every now and then you get a flame that pops up, and but it's giving off heat. It's giving off calories, the heat measurement. And then you go and you put some twigs on it, and those twigs are going to make a big flame real fast and boosh. But then it's going to come right back down to that smoldering layer of coals, right? And that's what's happening when you're doing that exercise, when those guys and ladies are doing that triathlon, and they're going spike with energy, spike with energy, spike with energy, and then coming back in sustained energy. The problem is, if you're not exercising, but you're eating that way, you're spiking with energy, and you don't need the energy because you don't have an output. And so you spike with energy. It's more energy than you got, or that you need. And so what happens is your body says, well, we didn't even need that much. So the next time, instead of spiking the energy, I'm going to store it. If you're eating that and I'm not going to have an output, I'm going to store it, because the output must be coming. It must be coming in the future. Because as much as you want to believe that your body understands that you can go to the grocery store, you can go to the farmer's market, you can go to the convenience store, you can walk to your refrigerator and get food, your body internally, subconsciously at the cellular level, does not know when the next meal is coming. And so the only thing it knows to do, because the refrigerator has only been around for how long? And the human race has been around for how long? It's a very small piece of history that the refrigerator's been around, that we've been able to store food, that we've been able to have it readily available. Your body has not learned that yet at the subconscious level, at the cellular level. It's still very much a eat, store for later, use what I need to use, and move on, and wait until the next meal comes. So if that's happening internally, then the fuel that you eat either is used or stored. It's either used or stored. And if you're not using it, it's stored to be used later. So food is fuel measured in an output, and that's called a calorie. You cannot burn calories. You burn the food that you eat. You burn the fat that's on your body, that's stored. That's it. So looking at it from the standpoint of that and saying, when you go to the grocery store or you go out to eat and you look at something and you say, unfortunately, it's labeled wrong because it's going to say this has this many calories in it, which it doesn't. It has this much energy in it that is going to give you that much calorie output. Then you have to look at it and say, am I going to use that energy? Because if not, do I want that output? Because it's either going to be used or it's going to be stored. And then when you learn which food products, which food items are going to give you the spike and which are going to give you the sustained levels of energy output, then you can really fine tune and dial in, when do you need to eat? How often do you need to eat? How are you going to get your body fat percentage down? How are you going to train your body to turn back on its metabolism properly and regulate properly its hormones, your blood pressure, your cholesterol level, all these things? If you listen to the previous episode about fasting and body fat percentage, if you haven't, go back and listen to that, because these two combined will help you figure out how to go about portion sizes, the amount of food, what types of food. Granted, you're going to have to do a little research or contact somebody like me and say, help me figure this out. But once you understand, then you'll know, like, if I'm only going to have this much output, and I know, and you have to be honest with yourself. And you can't say, I'm going to go to the gym every day, I'm going to do that, if you're not going to the gym every day. Don't say that just so you can eat, because then you're going to wind up in a position where you've stored more energy than you've output, which means you've gained weight. And that means you most commonly gained fat and a body fat, and your body fat percentage goes up. Now you're going the opposite direction of where you want to go, at least where your health is concerned. You're going in the opposite direction of where you want to go. And one of the things that, unfortunately, these companies that produce, the different simple sugars that are out there. So your candy companies, your candy bars, sweets, all of these things, they know that immediate fast output for most people in the Western world that are living in a Western society, that are struggling with the numerous things that are going on in their lives, pandemic being just one, but struggling with, especially in America, are you in the middle class? Are you in the lower class? You're struggling with financial stuff. You're struggling with work. You're struggling with trying to maintain semblance of life when you've got kids at home, but parents that are entering nursing homes, and you're being pulled all which direction. They know that when you get that spike of energy, you feel like you can do anything because you get a spike of energy. You've got an energy excess that makes you feel like, this is great. I feel great. I feel good. The problem is if you don't use that output, it drops quickly because it burns out so fast. It's like New Year's Eve and you give your kid a sparkler. And if you've got little kids, you've done this, and I know you've seen it. You give them a sparkler and it burns and they're like, oh, wow. Oh my gosh, look at that. Hey, it went out. Why'd it go out? It went out. Can I have another one? You give another one. Oh, look at that. And it goes out. What happened there? That's the same thing that's going on in your body. When you do those simple sugars, you get that immediate, and then boom, nothing. And when you do that too many times, guess what? That boom gets lower and lower and lower. Whereas when you do sustained, you don't get the boom. You sustain your energy up, you'll start to feel a little bit come down the same pattern that it went up. But then you know what happens is you go, oh, I need to eat. And you'll eat and it'll go back up. If you eat healthy food and you eat the right kind of energy, that's going to give you an output of the right kind of calorie expenditure over a long period of time. So I hope this has helped a little bit. Please don't say that you're burning calories because that's wrong. You are not burning calories. You are burning something, whether it is food, whether it is stored fat. If you're burning something in the backyard and it's wood or leaves, or you're burning gas in your car, you're burning something that is giving off energy measured in calories. It is a unit of measure. And so when you think about that, when you go to the grocery store, when you think about that, when you're looking at food that you want to eat, keep that in mind, that it's fuel. And the cleaner and the prettier and the nicer the food is, the fuel that you're putting in your body, the better your body's going to react to it. So if you put in a nice looking, vibrant, colorful fuel, you're going to get nice, colorful, vibrant energy output. And if you put in dark, grungy, beige, burned up fuel, you're going to get ugly, stinky, burned up output. If you put in super simple, sugar, sweet energy fuel, you're going to get on the outside a super high, super low output. So please reach out if you need help with that concept, if you need help figuring out what are the good foods, what are not the good foods. I'll be happy to help you with all that stuff. And yeah, go back and listen to the other episode and if you're having confusion about how fasting and body fat percentage and how all this mixes together to be able to tell you exactly how to eat your food, how to plan your meals, how to plan your exercise. Because when you understand this part of the formula, then the rest of it becomes very easy. The rest of it becomes very easy when you understand this part of the formula. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a CPA. You don't have to, be super great with numbers and formulas and addition, subtraction, and all that kind of stuff. You just have to understand the terminology and the basics of the terminology and making sure that you're using the terminology correctly. You do that and you'll be successful. I know you will. Thanks for checking out the All in Health and Wellness Confidence Through Health podcast. Our goal is to use health as a conduit to help you reach your goals in life. A little lighter than me. I'm about to black out. Her grip is getting tighter on me. I think I like it deep inside. I feel the fire in me. She like the milky, see me creaming to the coffee to me. She got soul in her sway.